Hey guys, welcome in M.U.O Sigma classes and my name is Piyush. In this particular video we'll be learning what is React component and we'll be understanding each and everything about it. This is the sixth video of React.js playlist. Okay, if you are not following my React.js playlist, you can follow the React.js. I'll be giving the link in the description. You can check out there. And before dive more into this what is React component, let me just explain you why we are using playcode.io. So using this website, basically you can just write the code in online tool. Not, you don't have to create any particular project using the command of React, right, using the npm or npx. So you can just easily play with your code and just you can see the web view as well here and the console as well here. So it is very easy, right? So that's the reason I'm just using this. Okay, so without wasting further time, let me just explain you what is this React component. So React component is the building block of React application. Okay, let me just explain you what is actual React component. Okay, and what all the features we have of React component. So I'm just gonna explain you. Okay, so React component is a very small chunk or it can be larger, but in standard if you will talk, it is always a small chunk, okay, of a user interface of your website. I'll be explaining you this line by writing the code, but before that I just want to explain you few theoretical points. Okay, so the primary job of a React component is to render the user interface and update it wherever it is required. Okay, wherever, let's say you are changing the state, there you have to change the user interface as well according to your requirement. So basically this React component will basically help you to re-render or render or show the interface of your web page. In addition to render the UI, it manages the event belongs to the user interface. As I said, if you are going to change the state, right, accordingly it will basically call the function and handle the event in order to update the UI or user interface. There can be a couple of things as a feature I can explain you, like initial rendering of the user interface, managing, or you can say the handling the events, right, updating the user wherever it is required. So we are not in hurry burry, so we'll be understanding each and everything one by one. So let me just explain you how many types of React components we have. So basically we have two types of React component. The types are categorized based on the way it is being created. Okay, number one is the functional component. So when we are saying function component is nothing but the um, plain JavaScript function. It's just like plain JavaScript function. So first is functional component, second one is the ES6 class component, which basically uses ES6 classes. That's all. So class based approach is introduced in ES6, right? So that's the reason I'm saying ES6 class component. So we have two types of component. Majorly we can call functional component or the class based component. Class introduced in ES6, that's the reason I'm saying ES6 class component. Okay, so the core difference between the functional and the class based component are basically functions component are very minimal in nature. Basically we can just handle everything in by writing minimal line of codes, but at the same place, if you are going to use the class based component, maybe we have to write little extra code. That's all. I'll be explaining each and everything, right? So let me just, before dive more into the theoretical part, let me just give you some example. This you can see, right, this export function app. So basically if you're writing some function, you have to write the function keyword and then function name and whatever the props, if you're passing or not, you just have to decide that. So and then after that you have to just pass the return and the JSX part. So this is called the functional component. Let me just create a file with JSX. So let me just create the file which says home home.jsx. Okay, so let me go to home.jsx, and here if I want to create the, here let me explain you what is the functional component and class component. Okay, okay, so let me just first explain you what is the class component. That's where you will understand more. When I will write the functional component, you will get understand what is little extra code. Okay, so if you want to create the class component, you have to write first class and then class name, let's say home. Okay, and you have to extend the property of react. Okay, that's why you have to import the react as well. Okay, so from react what you have to import component. Okay, and then you have to write the render function. This is the render function, and after render function what you have to do, you have to use the return. You have to use return, and inside the return you have to write whatever the JSX you want to use in closing div. Okay, and here I'm writing, hey, this is home class component. Okay, so this is class component. How you can use this class component? First you have to go to the app.jsx, because this is the pointed file from index.jsx. so what you have to do, simply if you just want to use this as well and the home one, what you can do, you can just import your home component. You can use it, you can use here, see, let's say home and self closing tag, and you also have to import the home component from home.jsx. Okay, and this home, and also you have to import react as well from here. Okay, so we can see this src app.jsx is basically not, it is not able to resolve src app.jsx. what you have to do, you have to just go back to the home.jsx. Let's see, acha, okay, uh, we have to export this home component as well. So export default home. Okay, and then you have to go back to the app.jsx and type home. This is the file name. Let's see if it is working fine. Okay, yeah, this is working fine. So you can see I'm using home component. If you will see here, right, so in the div I'm using home, and then we have h1 h2 tags. So you can see in the screen as well, hey, this is home screen, this is home class component, and here you can see hello react starting to see some magic happen, right? So this is like a child component. I have already explained you what is the child component and the parent component, right? And you can see this is home.jsx, but home.jsx is in the class component. This is the ES6 class component format. But at this place what you have to do, if you have to write the functional component, then what you have to do, this is very simple. You have to create a, you have to write the plain JavaScript function. So in order to do that, just write function, and if you want to type home, okay, and then just a open bracket and close bracket of the function, and you have to write return, and inside the return what you have to do, simply you can copy paste this small thing. Okay, and if you want to type export default here, you can write export default, simple. So you can see the same output at this web view, right? So now you can basically understand, you have to just write the small line of code, minimal line of code you can say, in functional component. And in class based component you have to write many things, like you have to extend the property from the react component, you have to import it. In this I don't think so you have to even import this. Let me just comment this line as well. So you have to use the class keyword, and then you have to extend the property of react component using this extend keyword. You have to write the extra method render, right? So this way we have to follow if you want to use the class base ES6 class based component. But I would prefer to work with the functional component because nowadays industry follows these functional components. Okay, so now let's understand some of the property of class component and the functional component. Let's just understand in 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, class component supports state management out of the box, where basically functional component doesn't support the state management. But again, in order to support this state management in functional component, what we have available, use state we have available. Use state is nothing but the hooks. So we have hooks, which is basically provided by React only. So we have use state for the functions component to maintain its state. Okay, class component have the life cycle and access of each life cycle event through dedicated callback APIs. Okay, next point is class components have the life cycle, and in order to access each life cycle we have event through dedicated callback APIs. Whereas function component doesn't have the life cycle. Again, React components basically provide the hooks for functional component in order to access the life cycle. At the place of class life cycle, we have hooks life cycle. So we have use effects for the functional component in order to access the different stages of the component. Like let's say for example, so let's say if you're updating this state, in order to update that state with the interface, what you have to do, you have to just use the use effect. And we have again lot of other lifecycle methods in you know in this functional component. So we have to understand each and everything. So I'll be explaining you all in subsequent tutorials. So you have to just subscribe the channel so that you will get the notification whenever I'm updating the video, whenever I'm uploading the videos. Okay, so as I've created the class component, as I've created the functional component, so this is my responsibility to just explain you how we are going to manage the state. Count equals to 0. Again you can see this dot state is giving you error. So what you have to do, you have to write the constructor. Inside the constructor you have to write super, and then you have to use this dot state here. Okay, and you have to count 0 here. So in order to access this count, what you have to do, count value is this dot state dot count. Okay, so this way you can use your state, this dot state dot count. Okay, you can destructure as well here, count this dot state, and directly you can use this count here. Okay, const. Okay, but whereas if you want to use your functional component, how you can play, it's very simple now. In the functional component, const count set count, use state. By default you can give the 0 value. Okay, and you can just copy this. Count value is count. If you're not using set count, just remove this, and use state you have to import it here. Fine, so you can see count value is 0. If you will update it from here, you can see 1 2, right? That's a fantastic thing in functional component. So as I said, if you will use the functional component, you just have to write the minimal line of code. But if you will use the class based component, maybe you have to write little extra code as well, little extra code. So it's depend upon you, but we are going to use the functional component because the industry is following the functional component. It is easy to manage, more easy to read. Okay, so we're gonna use the functional component. I hope this video will give you help in order to understand what is the class based component, what is the functional component. Okay, and which one to use in your project, and how you can manage the state. But for sure there will be another video how to manage the state in class and functional based component. I'll be explaining you complete tour on the life cycle, state and other things, and state management life cycle as well. I'll be teaching you all the things related to Redux and MobX as well. Okay, so stay tuned with us, like, share, and subscribe the channel. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.